Well, good day, good day, good day. And I'd like to welcome all of you to another episode of All for Success. I am testing my sound. Can you hear me at all? I'm wondering. We have a little bit of a delay on some of our presentation, but it's a little slow, and it's always that lovely tag that I get called network might be slow. But anyway, everybody, welcome and good day to all of you out there. I hope your morning is as bright and sunny as mine is here. I'm out in the middle of center of Tennessee, so it is bright right now. That's for anyone who would like to triangulate my location. So, welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to do a little bit of struggle streaming. I was going to ask you guys, I'm thinking about doing a little bit of a chit chat on a room. There's another social media application called Fanbase. Have any of you any experience with that, or do you use it at all? I'm just curious because I'm thinking about looking into it. It seems kind of interesting, although I will say that it appears that most of the people who are on there, on the crowd that I tend to see as I'm scrolling through, they seem to be very young, very active, and a very dynamic group of people. So I'm thinking about doing a little chat, but also on their social media application. As would be the case, as soon as I decided to start doing that and look into it, you would know that my screen went completely blank and all of a sudden I was fumbling and well, you know the rest. But anyway, welcome to all of you here at All for Success. Now, get a moment, get your coffee if you haven't gotten your coffee yet, or get yourself settled down so you can relax. I promise not to talk forever. And if you are going to enjoy working out or exercising during this chat, which I highly recommend, you'll probably get quite a bit of a workout in before I wrap it up. So that would be a wonderful opportunity for you. Now I'm going to struggle stream over here to the next slide, right? While I pitch that. Hopefully you guys, oh, I had the baby there too. But hopefully you guys will get a chance to get your yoga in or your exercise or whatever it is you like to do. And just drop a line in the chat if you're having a wonderful workout routine and the opportunity to exercise and improve your health. Now, this is a Sussex friendly space, okay? Meaning you're not going to hear me blathering on and saying negative things about that couple just because I can or in an attempt to earn a few dollars. Now, that is, of course, antithetical to what you hear on UK tabloid TV and all of the trash networks that are out there. But this is a Sussex friendly space. And with that being said, I'm generally friendly to a lot of other things as well. Okay. But I like to talk about a lot of what's going on, but through that lens of a person who is a parent of adult children. And I see Harry and Meghan in that light. And as a parent of adult children, I see nothing that brings more than pride. Now, does that mean also you're very nervous for them? You're very worried about them from time to time? My heart goes out to some of the struggles that they will have to endure because that too is parenting. But along with all of that, there's much support and definitely much sense of pride in many of the things that they are working on and accomplishing. And I hope all of you are in that same vein. Now, while I am struggling to the next slide, you guys make sure you get down to the bottom there. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Tell other people about us and our approach to things and the fact that my favorite line from, I don't know if any of you ever saw this show called Silicon Valley, but it was quite a hilarious show about people who worked in the field of IT. And the catch line for almost everything was we want to make the world a better place, right? Because that is such a vague and interesting statement to make. And in general, anything that you do, you're trying to make the world a better place, whether you achieve that mission or not. So I couldn't help but put that little picture up of baby Harry as he was wanting to be a soldier even at that time. So I just thought that for some reason, as a parent, this is how you see your children actually forever. So it's hard to see them as grown up. So we're going to focus a little bit on some of the things that they have been doing this week. All right. All right. All right. All right. So as you get to see and peek behind the curtain of much of my um, wonderful struggle in the streaming world, I had to put the sound piece there to my slide. So let's see what they've got going on. As we all know, our wonderful couple, Harry and Meghan, decided that they would show up at a polo match and benefit, which is, of course, as always, supporting many of the charities that he works with. Primarily here, it's Santa Bale. So, like I had announced during one chat previous, it took me a minute to understand that Santa Bale was actually helping and supporting children whose parents or even the children themselves were suffering from HIV and AIDS. That was such a huge issue in the past. Although they've made so many wonderful strides towards reckoning with that disease, you don't hear a lot about it as often anymore. But at the same time, it is still a very, very big deal. And many people are still dealing with either the medication end or what happens when they get sick. But it is amazing the strides and the steps that have been made to challenge that disease. So this is wonderful. While everything else is going on and falling apart on the scene in the UK and whatever they're dealing with and hassling with, Harry and Meghan are going about their normal business, right? And I absolutely love that for them, right? I think that again, I love the fact that as a young couple, I see things in them that actually can benefit me as an older person. The ability to stay focused on what your goals are and to move forward even when there are challenges falling down all around you, left and right, because they will continue to be challenged. And since the UK media made themselves the actual enemy, then they have done nothing but spend an inordinate amount of time trying to find ways to compare Harry and Meghan to anything and everything UK. And it's embarrassing. It has truly become worldwide embarrassment. And I'm one of those folks that, as I look at the situation, I'm almost beginning to feel sorry for their foolish attempts. And I'm thinking, aren't you ashamed of how embarrassing you look? Very similar to a child throwing a tantrum in a grocery store. But have they slowed down? Not at all. Have they stopped? Not at all. Now, what you are seeing, however, from time to time are cracks in the foundation. Now, what's beautiful about this is the fact that many of our super channels, right, this on YouTube, have been covering several interviews by various UK post-tabloid, previous considered journalists of the Royal Rota. And many of these people are now trying to sing a different tune. So I hope you guys get an opportunity to scour through YouTube and pull up some of these super channels, because there was an interview covered by one wonderful squad member of Miss Pasternak. She was also mentioned in several of the big YouTube channels who are Harry and Meghan fans. But this character, Miss Pasternak, was blatantly putting on display the tactics, the measures, and the things that people have done to try and sabotage Harry and Meghan over these past years. And again, it is truly embarrassing to watch. Now, of course, here's our couple as they're going down to Florida to participate both in the wonderful charity of polo. It's an opportunity for Harry to play polo in a way that I'm sure Meghan finds more safe, because of course when he falls off of a horse or anything like that, she cringes, and you can see that there's almost this nightmare stricken look on her face. But as always, here they are smooching in public as she presents him his trophy. Now, listen, they need to cut that out, okay? I believe they're about to be married long enough that they need to put a slow down on all of that smooching. But it is adorable, isn't it? And I just love it. But wherever they go, they are hand in hand, arm in arm, and lip locked. But you can't, and you can't be mad at them, can you? They're so cute. Now, I wanted to also add this note because they are about to work on a feature, which has been mentioned in that's coming up in Netflix, where they're going to do a feature perhaps following the sport of polo. Now, polo is not generally a very widely talked about sport, especially here in the United States. We know people play polo, but we tend to think of it as a rich man's sport. We think of it as fairly exclusive. However, what is wonderful is that there is an outreach, and I just grabbed a couple of snaps of some teams from different places. I believe this young group here on the left side is a polo team, I believe, out of Africa, I believe. I'm not sure, but I think so. But these are young boys and girls who are interested in the sport and are beginning to play the sport, and they're up and coming figures in the sport. And then also here on the right side, it features a team, I think they are out of Philadelphia, which I found quite intriguing. You know, discussions about polo teams and who's on polo teams stateside, it's not a big news story, but they are thinking about doing a feature to actually highlight polo and the game itself. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I do hope it is interesting. I intend to at least check it out once they get there, get that going, because I would love to know more about the sport. And with Harry being a super fan of it, I think that their perspective will be very interesting, and especially since it does have benefit and does a lot of charity work in conjunction with. I think that is phenomenal. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there are also other faces now too. Oops, excuse me, we have noise in the background. I also wanted to put faces to some of the polo of the future. And so this will be intriguing and interesting to learn about. Why is it that if I'm doing a stream, the loudest automobile in the neighborhood has to pass by? Explain that to me, would you? Now, of course, many of you are very, very familiar with who this is. I mean, Harry and Nacho, they are a team and they go way back. And it is wonderful to see them. This is a picture from when they went to their match actually in Tokyo. I believe it was a year or so ago. And they stay true to their friendship. And I think that is wonderful. Once again, just to suppose how these two people carry on and maintain their friendship. And it is interesting that they have remained loyal to each other. Now, this is, of course, a wonderful thing because sometimes there are people that are closer to you in your interactions than actual family members. And in this case, Nacho would be that type of person with Harry. And I hope that their friendship remains strong. I really do. And we hope that they can continue to do great things in the future. But I thought that that was just adorable. So, of course, once the match was over, at least this year, um, the team won. That was Harry's team. So everyone was in a celebratory mood and they were so glad that they won. And once again, it is wonderful that they can maintain what they're doing by focusing on the things that they endure and love. And I think it is lovely that Meghan was selected to come out and present the award. Now, of course, if Nacho's team wins, usually his wonderful, beautiful wife will be there to present the award. And that is a fantastic thing. Now, what's also a wonderful thing that Harry was also participating in, which these things, they get a little bit of feedback sometimes, but when people get a moment to actually log in and listen to some of the discussions that they're having, it's intriguing to hear the stories that are told by these people who, if you were passing them on the street or if you saw them at their work, Mindy, of course, is an actress. She was on her own show that was really very popular, and she is pretty funny. But you wouldn't think that these people have things to talk about where they express some of the challenges and difficulties in their life. And although they had this panel, and of course, Harry speaks very openly about the benefit of reaching out for help and getting people to assist you. That is a very important factor for all of us who may be facing difficulty in our lives. And when we're speaking to, again, children who are, they are children, but they are adults. And even our adult children will sometimes be challenged by what I call the rigors of reality. It is difficult. And I know if you're like me, we all remember some of those moments in our past where we began to understand that the world operated vastly different from how we had envisioned or had hoped it would operate. And I'm sure that many of you can remember that feeling where you were teeter-tottering between, am I going to have a complete breakdown or am I going to be able to manage? I remember standing between that moment of, this world is crazy. How am I going to deal with, things that I thought I was going to be able to obtain or achieve quickly, or things that I thought were going to be positive and have no problems or no issues. And then you achieve these things or you enter these spaces, and they are a lot more difficult and more challenging than you expected. And that you find you're in a world, again, let's tie this back to some of the things they're facing. You find out that you're in an existence where there are actually people who make their day by trying to create problems for other people. I cannot express how shocking that was to me to find out that after, say, high school, that real people actually spent time finding out how they could disrupt, block, and cause problems for other people as they tried to achieve their goals. So that was shocking to me. And so the summit of Better Up is a summit of different people talking about things where they were challenged in their lives and some of the difficulties that they had. And Mindy actually spoke more about being a parent of young kids because all of those who have been parents of young kids, we all realize that there are difficulties that are layers of difficulties. There are layers of, oh, it's a lot, kids are busy, they take a lot of time. And then there are layers of other things that you might face that are far more intense. And so they talked about that. And evidently, Better Up is a source of information in support of that. All right. So I'm going to take just a short pause here as I go because I want to see what kind of comments we might have in the chat. Ooh, people are chit-chatting in the pause. What are you doing? You're chatting along. So let's see who's here real quick. I can at least run down that. How about that? Is that fair? Is that fair? Is that fair? Okay, April May, she says, hello, everyone. And hello to you, April May. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I am so glad that you're here. And we have also Andrea, Aline. I need a blessed Saturday morning. Thank you so much. I know that it's going to be so busy and I'm going to be running around, and I appreciate your being here. Thank you for being here. I would like to say also hello to Rafaela Bertoni. Thank you so much. I love that you are here. She says, hello, dear friends. Happy Saturday. We all need that happy Saturday. We really, really do. And let's see who else we have. I see another comment here. I hope I don't skip too many, but I'll run down a few. She says, Andrea Aileen is letting us know that Harry and Meghan are very committed people and they make it work together. You are so right. That is so true. And that is what it takes for many of us to try to stay in a, what do you call it, in a very good working environment. We have to stay committed. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Miss Bertoni is telling us that in Italy it is, hot. I am not surprised. And I want to tell you something. I'm so glad you're here because I've actually been to Italy and I hope to travel back that way one more time. And I would hope, I see that Aline has said that in the Barbados, it's how hot also. Oh, but she's got a little bit of overcast. But I tell you, I love the pictures of the beaches that I see in the Barbados. So I tell you what, maybe we can all get together and do a group trip and go to the Barbados and just travel around and really, really enjoy all of the wonderful places in the islands. There is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. So much beauty and seaside. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope that you keep coming out and listening to me rant on about wonderful things Harry and Meghan are doing. So, as I had mentioned, let's pick that back up. Netflix is working, of course, with Archwell, and they are preparing to produce a couple of shows. Now they've mentioned that these are in the nonfiction realm, although they do have they're interested in doing a production of a book that was called, I believe it was Meet Me at the Sea, and it's a love story. And I thought that would be beautiful because for them, I'm sure reading that story, it had some interesting and intriguing things that meant a lot to them. And so they're going to work with them on that wonderful production. And then of course they were talking about the following of polo as a sport. So I think that'll be a great thing for them to do. I'm looking forward to both of those things. In the meantime, um, because you're thinking to yourself, at least I am, I'm like, where do they get the time? Right? Because also while this is happening, and I know I'm kind of featuring more on, some of the things that Harry is working with, at the same time, Meghan is doing her major rollout of ARO, American Riviera Orchard. And I do love a lot of the cooking shows, and I love some of the shows where people are doing many type of style investigations. And I do hope that it is very positive, and I hope that her presentation is one that will draw attention because I want them to be a success. Above all, I want them to be a success. But she is such a classy young lady. She's very precise in her work. So I think that she will reach a very broad audience, especially of people who like to, what I call, um, keep increasing what is beautiful. People who love table settings, they love throwing parties, and they just love to make what they have more beautiful. And trust me, we can all use a little bit of that in our lives. Don't you agree? Okay, now I know I'm shortening up this chat a little bit, and the only reason for that is because I am supposed to go to brunch this morning. Yes. So I would love for all of you to come out and join me at brunch. And then this is funny. A friend of mine called and they want to have like a taco party. But I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to be able to make both of these events. But that's what I mean. American Riviera Orchard is the type, it will definitely appeal to the people who like to do those kinds of things. They like to brunch, they like to socialize, and then they like to make things look beautiful. So, absolutely beautiful. All right. So, once again, as I begin to wrap this up or kind of slowly knit it all together, you all have been watching again the nonsense that has been just pouring out from the other side of the world against everything that Harry and Meghan do. And you would think, again, like I said at the beginning, you would think that these people would say, certainly, now that we're all falling ill and we're all stepping in for each other, and that there is absolutely no true grassroots interest in anything royal family, right? Because in the UK, it's a dwindling and unappealing um, environment. And so there's no spark of the royal family. Folks are just not really all that excited about them. And if you're counting on the support of the upcoming elderly, then you're moving in the wrong direction. Okay? However, as with all things UK media tabloid, they're still trying to convince the population that the problems that they're having in their world are somehow tied to whatever Harry and Meghan are doing. That the reason the UK the UK people, the people of Britain, are experiencing a failing healthcare system, difficulty in their transportation system, which was one of the best in the world. The reason for people having problems with their housing, costs are going up. They have people now living on the streets, which used to be a USA thing. They're having issues with people showing up on their shores absolutely uninvited and struggling at every angle, right? And yet they still focus 80% of their news and media headlines on Harry and Meghan, right? Even the discussion of the health of the other people in Britain, the other members of the royal family who actually are living in Britain, instead of focusing 100% on that, every story has to always tie that back to something about Harry and Meghan, right? First, they tried to tie their illnesses to being caused by the stress of Harry and Meghan. First, they tried that. Well, that didn't work out. Then they tried to tie Harry and Meghan needing to respond to all of their upheavals and that they didn't respond loudly or properly or enough. Once again, they couldn't just keep the headlines on them and themselves and their challenges. They have to always look all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, and in this case, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, to try and discuss what might be the cause of their own problems. Because taking accountability and responsibility is not possible for these people, right? And that, of course, unfortunately for us, is something that we have to grab a hold of and truly understand. They simply cannot be responsible. It's like listening to a whole group of people constantly blame an individual who is outside of their house, outside of their world, and they blame them for all of their problems. But that is the UK way. All right. So that brought me to a thought. Of course, I have to give you all my caveat. Sometimes I'll have a remembrance of Bible verses and Bible thoughts, and that's simply because that's my background. And no, I am not going to preach to you. No, I'm not going to tell you, hey, you need to be in the biblical territory. I'm only mentioning it as a point of reference, and I hope you enjoy my point of reference. Okay, and that perhaps you think it's kind of humorous because I like to make these references just like I do to science fiction shows. And I've noticed that many of you are not in the nerd lane, and we're going to have to correct that. Okay, you guys need to get on the sci fi train because when I make a reference to something in sci fi, I need you to be on board. Okay, but in this case, I was just perusing through several Bible verses and I got to thinking, what in the world would make an entire continent place their business? Like the UK has an entire business being jealous and envious of Harry and Meghan. That is their entire industry, right? It's really sad if you have, now just think about it. What if you and I owned a magazine company, right? If we were publishers of a very phenomenal and interesting magazine. Often I think of Oprah Winfrey. She had a magazine, the O magazine. But if you and I owned a magazine, what kind of stories would you like to print? If I owned a newspaper, if I were in charge of a newspaper, let's say I had an outlet and I delivered papers all over the country, I often think, what kind of stories would I want to tell? What kind of things would I want to talk about? Well, let's think about it. I would love to cover wonderful activities in the area that I live in that young people are participating in. I would be at games, I would be at schools, I would want to highlight students who are doing fantastic things. Um, then, of course, I would probably want to jump into young mothers who are working with children, um, people who are accomplishing things in the areas of education and childcare. I would love to feature that. Um, another thing that is really fun for me, I love to see things that are being built in the area, new things that are coming to our area, like people building apartments and stores and what they're planning to do. I love that. So that would be kind of, I know, probably it would be dull and boring, at least in my eyes. That's the kind of stories I think about. Of course, I would cover my share of decisions being made by the city or the county, of course, the local kind of politic type world, because one of the biggest questions I always have is who is responsible for the traffic? Okay. So we would, that would be probably my headline. Who is responsible for the traffic? And so that's the kind of stories I would cover. Now, other people would be into fashion and food. But if we owned a magazine, if you and I ran a magazine or newspaper, I can imagine those are the kinds of stories we would be looking for, hungry for. You'd want to know what's going on in your area, right? It would be phenomenal. Can you imagine instead? And I'm trying to think how I would even do this. But can you imagine instead thinking of people that you have known throughout your life and instead talking negatively about them and just spend every newspaper that you put out, every magazine that you put out, saying something awful about a person that you don't like, right? You would fill every page with who you don't like today and why, and just talk about everything that they do and say something bad about it. I mean, would that sound like a business product to you? If someone pitched that as a business, the first thing I would think is, yeah, you're going to fail. But I mean, that is their entire business plan. Their entire business plan is we make a lot of money because Harry and Meghan make money when we talk about how much we despise them. And that is their business plan. Now think about that in contrast to if they had been thinking, instead they simply would have said, we're going to keep track of what Harry and Meghan are doing because they're doing some wonderful things and they're supporting some excellent causes. Let's look into those causes. Let's look at those things. I think personally they would have made more money for a longer period of time and they would have been welcome to do so. But they couldn't do that. So let's go back and let's understand what our ancient texts might have said about always being jealous and always envying other people. Now, here's the thing, just to point out and to be fun, maybe you all understand that there's a difference between envy and jealousy. In the English language, envy and jealousy. I generally use those terms interchangeably. I don't think about perhaps a subtle difference. But here is stated that envy and jealousy, they are closely linked in the Bible, but there are subtle differences. And here's what they're getting at. They said that envy is wanting something that belongs to another person. And can you kind of concede that that is a possibility? That Harry and Meghan became a target in a sense because when they were looked at, other people wanted the love that people gave them. Other people wanted the love that they show between themselves. That other people actually wanted the adoration that they appeared to be getting. right? And that envy, being that it's a want for something that belongs to another person, right? Just think about that. I wouldn't have put it that way. I would not have thought of it in that terms. But now as I look at it in more detail, exactly. And then by contrast, they say jealousy is actually the fear, is that you're scared that something that you actually do have is going to be taken away. It's going to be given to somebody else. So again, let's look at the personalities we've gotten to become familiar with in the UK. Look at the characters that they were living around, working with, and the family itself. That each person in that family felt that their position was going to be removed. They felt that whatever things that they were working on, people weren't going to be interested in it because Harry and Meghan were taking their limelight. And don't forget, for them, limelight is a thing that they believe they possess. And so they're sitting there thinking that Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan coming in, that she was going to take something from them, right? It's amazing. It's truly amazing. And they say jealousy often takes things, like different actions, that they take it a step further than envy. Jealousy always has an inward focus because of inadequacy, right? Whereas envy has an outward focus because it's the have versus the have nots. And that's how you're looking at things all around you. You're looking at someone else and you're thinking that you want what they have, right? You see them with something. The guy who got the new car, the girl who got the pretty dress, the woman that married the handsome man, you want what they have, right? And meanwhile, you're hoarding everything that you have. You're holding tight to, to whatever it is that you have, to whether you have a new car or the car that you have, or you're holding on to your little trinkets because you think that the other person wants it, right? And I think it's pretty clear in the case of Harry and Meghan that number one, they are so focused on what they want to do and what they want to achieve that they haven't even looked left and right to see what it is you have. And if you notice, if you keep this thought in mind with the envy versus jealousy, notice that the headlines and UK Talk TV, they always speak from the position of Harry and Meghan are trying to take. Harry and Meghan are keeping the titles. Harry and Meghan want the titles. Harry and Meghan want something from them. We're going to take back Frogmore. We're going to take that away from them. We're going to take back the titles. We're going to take that from them because they are operating from jealousy and envy. And it hasn't occurred to them yet that Harry and Meghan are operating from, and here's the fun thing, gratitude, which is the key, right? They are operating from gratitude and love. And that is unusual for them. They can't understand it. All right, so I wanted to point that out. That is kind of how I'm going to wrap it up this Saturday. And I want you all to remember this too. Think about that whenever you, even if you get a little tinge or a pang of a feeling like that, think of what you have to be thankful for. Keep that in the forefront of your mind and always move towards the things in life that you want and are interested in and that you love. Because gratitude, being grateful for where you are, for what you have, what you can do, the talents, the gifts, what you have that you can give, that is the key to keep you from looking left and right at what other people are doing. That, of course, is another lesson that can be learned from the wonderful family Sussex. All right, guys, so there I am going to sort of wrap it up. I'm going to show you some of my favorite photos. Of course, I can't help myself. And then I'm going to see if there's any other thing in the chat that I need to quickly run by. All right, all right. I see people are getting ready to take off. Thank you again, Rafaela Berterne, for being here. I know you guys got to get out of here and get going because you got things in life to do. I understand. And thank you again, Rafaela Bertone. Oh, Sussex are action and compassion. Yes, ma'am, 100%. And that's why they stay in motion. And we need to do the same thing. Thank you, Joyce Anderson, and good Saturday morning to you. Thank you, and I am so happy that you are here. Thank you for being here. And as I am wrapping it up, I want to tell you guys, man, it warms my heart that there are some of you out there that are interested in listening. And I'm going to try to learn a lot more about this streaming game. And I'm going to try to learn a lot more about the YouTube streets. And then I think I'm going to attempt to jump in over on some other social media apps. But here's our baby boy doing what he loved as a kid. And wow, he grew right up into that same environment because sometimes your path is already set. And I every time I see these photos, I think that is absolutely marvelous. Now, of course, this is an older slide, but you know what we're going to do? Fast forward past that because they're going to stay there. They're stuck in that spot, and we're going to leave them there. And again, everybody, stay focused, stay positive, and keep on winning. And let's not forget, as we get ready to get out of here, they didn't know, but this is who's coming for them. They thought that they were dealing with a child, but they're not. So let's have a great day, and thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.